Well, thank you for having me today. My name is Vonnie McCoy. I am the Director of New Family Life Services, which is better known as the Crisis Pregnancy Center in Colville. We have been in existence for 30 years this year, and I've been the director. Come November, I'll be the director 24 of those 30 years. It's been quite an adventure to watch what God has done with the center. How many of you are familiar with who New Family Life Services is? Most of you. All right. So I don't know how far back I need to go in history, but it started in the heart of a single mom, and her children were in high school, and they were coming home and reporting, that their friends were pregnant and scared and not knowing what to do, and most of them were heading to Spokane to make that choice. And so out of the compassion of her heart, she formed a steering committee to see what the need would be in our area for a center. And so that's where New Family Life Services came into existence. And they were in a little home up on Birch Avenue and started serving clients about a year and a half after the steering committee got the 501c3 paperwork done. So very humble beginnings, and we then moved because the family needed that home. They kind of shut the center down for a while because there was no buildings that could house it that they could actually afford in town. And so it went into storage for about a year and a half. And then the Nazarene Church had a parsonage that they allowed the center to come back into. Addie New Life kind of took the center under its wings and got it set up and started again in the little house on Astor Street, and that's where I entered the picture. And from there, the Lord gave us a vision for a maternity home because we had young clients that were facing whether they would carry their pregnancy or be homeless. And so the maternity home came into existence. By the grace of God, my pastor required everyone in our little tiny church to go to this Christian businessman's meeting. And it was like a seminar, a 3-day, learn how to do this kind of stuff. And one of the speakers there impacted me greatly. And he said that what's in your heart is only a vision or only a dream until you write it down. And then it becomes a vision. And once you get that dream on paper, then others can see the vision and come as God directs and lift that vision up and help with that. And so when I came back from that weekend, I sat down at the computer and, this thing about housing, and we had tried to do shepherding homes and all this stuff, and nothing was gelling together. And so I just started typing what God was kind of burning in my heart about a maternity home. And when I got done typing it, it just seemed so huge that I didn't even print it. I just left it on the computer. And about a month later, a gentleman came in, and he and his family had just moved to the area, and they wanted to know how to join in with life. And they were retiring from the Air Force, and they said, with our government money, we want to fund life. We're tired of our government funding death. We want to fund life with our government money, so their retirement money. So just a coincidence that their realtor knew about, our work, and no, all part of God's plan, right? There is no coincidences in God's design. And so I said, well, that would be great. What do you have in mind? And he said, well, we have property on 395. Could we put a billboard up for you? And we said, that would be perfect. We've been talking about a billboard, right? So that would be great. he said, but what is your vision for this? And so I thought, oh, he's asking about the vision thing. Because I said, just a minute, I'll print it out and then I'll send it home with you, right? And so I printed it out and he took it home. He said, my wife and I will pray over this and see what God wants us to do. And when we get our girls in school and she has a little more free time, she's going to come in and volunteer for you. I said, that's wonderful. And so a couple months go by, and I thought, well, that was really a kind gesture, really nice. But then all of a sudden this woman shows up one day and she's like, I'm here and I'm ready to work. What do you want me to do? And it happened to be this man's wife. And so I gave her the volunteer paperwork and showed her around the center, and she's all real excited. And she said, but I've got to go pick the girls up from school, so I'll be back next week with my papers and everything. And as she's heading out the door, she turns around and she says, oh, by the way, we've been praying over that vision you gave my husband, and we would like to purchase a home for you to have the maternity home. What do you say, right? I'm flabbergasted. Anyway, that's how the maternity home came into being. You write the vision, the dream down, God turns it into a vision, and then people can come alongside as he directs and support that vision, right? So in 2018, God started stirring my heart again about work training services for our clients. We've got the maternity home going good, but these girls need something more. It's hard to find a job besides just flipping burgers or working at a fast food restaurant or, something like that. We don't have, like back in the day when you could go to work and you could be trained for something, and, those days are gone in our world. So I just was like, where do you go to help these, girls get something more than just food service work or whatever, some work training under their belt that they could be able to support their child. We're asking her to carry this baby to term and then parent, possibly adopt, whatever, we put those parenting options out there for her. But so this work training thing was kind of rattling around in me, and then just hearing where our state is in the matter of life. And, if you have a young person and you take them to the doctor when they come of age, they're pushing birth control and they're pushing these things upon our young people and not speaking God's will into their life. As parents, that's our main job, right? But I kind of don't like that, but it kind of takes a community, right? Because our children look up to other people, doctors, firemen, policemen, right? And we want these people to be able to speak godly things into our children. And so I just was like, what if we had a medical clinic that had Christian doctors that were free to speak about the love of Jesus and the love of God? They didn't have their hands tied because of their medical clinic's views on things, right? What if they had the freedom to be able to take this pregnant person, this pregnant young woman, and say, God's got a great plan for your life, according to Psalm 139, right? He wrote our days in a book before any were ever lived out. He wrote our days in a book. That's a vision and a plan for each of us, right? Not just special people, but everybody. He wrote your days in a book. In his book of life, your days are already written. That gives me hope. I think that's really cool. And so, some things happen and our life doesn't go the way we think it should go. But this, isn't a bad thing. And to be able to speak hope and life into these young people, and then to have pediatric care where they can bring their baby back once you've made this relationship with them, to bring that baby back and have that child grow up in Christian pediatric care where they are loved and they're spoken into, and they realize who they are in God before they ever have to decide what they're going to do, right? And they will know, they'll have that solid foundation. And that was bubbling up in me. So I wrote it down. And there should be a little bluey green paper there on your seat. It talks about the vision. It's in the middle on one of your sides, the side that says, what are we facing in Washington State? In the middle section there, it says, where are we going from here? In 2018, God spoke to me and gave me this vision, and I wrote it down, or gave me this dream, and I wrote it down. It became a vision. Year one was to purchase our current property from the Kellers. The Kellers had purchased that property, took 18 months to renovate the home. We opened it up for the maternity care, and then it took another 6 months or so to get the offices opened and going. And they leased that property to us for $1 a year for 16 years. And when 2020 came about and when everything was like, where is the world going, right? We were all uncertain of what was going to happen. The board started talking about purchasing the property. And Mr. Keller had kind of said, I'd like to liquidate all my rentals. He had quite a few different rentals. I'd like to liquidate all this stuff because I feel like God's moving me in a different direction. And so in the fall of 2020, we approached them about purchasing the property. And by May of 21, we had purchased the property. He carried the contract for 6%, which was wonderful. And actually sold it to us for what they had purchased it for. Yeah. A champion for life, this couple, really a champion for life. And so we purchased that property, and I knew that God had told me that it would be paid off within 5 years. It was paid off within 3 years. Another family came in and asked what they could do. We told them, we had just bought the property. We were carrying a contract. They said, we'd like to buy that contract, and we're going to give you $10,000 back just off the top for extra spending, and then we're going to carry that contract for 3%. And so that's how the property got paid off within 3 years. God, right? Yeah. But God. For like the last 15 years, I've been looking for a medical director. We have been putting flyers out. We've approached doctors, every doctor in our region. Nobody was able to do this. And, I was just striving. We got to have a doctor. We've got to get a doctor. And 2 years, about 2.5 years ago, I finally said, God, I can't, it's not working. I don't know what else to do. And he said, okay. And by that October, a lady from California who is an ARNP approached us about becoming our medical director. She holds a license in Washington State. Hello. Okay, thank you, Lord. So we have a medical director, and we've had a medical director now for the last 2 years. And then years 3 and 4 were supposed to be securing funding, networking with area agencies and different things to make sure that we have volunteers and people that are going to come alongside this vision and help with it, right? So we've been doing that. And last year, we actually the board decided that it was time to start looking for a building. And early last year, it was like March or so. And so we began the search in Colville for a new building. There were only 2 buildings in Colville that were available for sale. One was it's where the Cafe Italiano is. Does anybody know that? I don't remember. Is that Oddfellows Lodge or what had it been? 3 or 4 story, great big old building. It was that building and Stephanie's Oak Street Grill. Does it mean Cookies Cafe?
Yeah.
Those were the 2 buildings that were for sale. We ended up purchasing Stephanie's Oak Street Grill. So we went now from our office space currently is 719 square feet, and we now own a 7,000 square foot building. When the volunteers were like, is there enough room for the boutique to be in there? I said, we can put 3 of our buildings in just one section of the new building. They're like, oh wow. So God has been working. It's been very interesting. The Smiths, Eric and Stephanie Smith, Stephanie's Oak Street Grill, they have graciously carried the contract for us, again at a very low interest rate. And they are so excited to come alongside and work with the work training portion of the vision, which is, I mean, I can't do this stuff, people. I am not a business person. I have no clue what to do, what I'm doing. You know, I write things down and what God tells me, and He does the rest. And He can do that for all of us. He wants to do that for all of us. You know, He has a plan. If we will just give Him our yes, He will direct it. His word says, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, right? And in His sight, we're all good men. Male men and women and female men, right? But we're all good men. And He's so excited when we will say yes. When He says, you know, you might want to think about a work training program. Well, God, everybody tells me we do too much now. You know, we have parenting classes and new clothes and used clothes and mentors and the maternity house, and they say we do too much now. What about adding another thing? Yes, I want you to think about work training for these young women. Okay, so then He sells it, provides us a building that has built-in work training people. I mean, come on. A full kitchen, but it's more than that. It's a commercial kitchen, a full commercial kitchen with everything. I mean, yeah, everything. They had it to the tenths. You know, they were a booming business, and He even provided 2 renters to pay the mortgage. Because He knew it would take us a little while to get our ducks in a row to start renovating our building, right? So He puts 2 renters in there that pay the mortgage. We have a parking lot. In our old building, we have 2 parking spaces. We had to lease parking from, we had to make a contract with Safeway for parking. We never had to pay them for parking. They graciously let us use 10 parking spaces, but they required us to carry a $4 million policy on our insurance to cover the liability for those parking spaces. You know how much money we're going to save when we don't have to have those parking spaces anymore? We have a parking lot, a huge parking lot. And that's income, because there's people that rent. You know, you can't park on Colville streets for more than, 4 hours now at a time downtown? So we have income from a parking lot. I mean, He's making provision left and right for this thing to succeed. Mm-hmm. And so my mom says, do you ever lay awake at night thinking about things? I said, yeah, I do. Did I get us into a $500,000 building that's going to go nowhere? And God says, no, you didn't. Look at, but you know, there's provision. It's going to, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it just seems like it's happening faster and faster and faster. So, if you go to your blue page and we can talk a little bit about what we're facing in Washington State. Does anybody know where Washington stands in the battle of life?
Not on our side.
Not on our side. Very good. Very good. Yes. So in 22, when Roe was overturned, well, I was actually there in 21 when the court's decision, when they were having the court case. That was really interesting. But in June of 22, when it was overturned and it got sent back to the states. So it never abolished abortion, okay? It just sent those decisions back to the states. And if your state is a pro-life state, then abortion is usually very controlled. I don't believe any state has completely abolished abortion yet, but they have made very stringent rules. There's heartbeat rules. There's, no abortion after 8 weeks, different things like that. When all that happened, the day, June 24th of 2022, the day that decision came down, Governor Inslee and the governor of Oregon and California made a pact. Well, they had already made it because it was published that day. They sent it to the Supreme Court that day saying that they would not follow that these states would still allow abortion. And Governor Inslee actually referred to Washington State to be the premier abortion destination for your vacation. Bring your vacation here to Washington State and we will give you those kind of medical services. They'll pay for airline flights, they pay for the procedure, they pay for any medications, they pay for recovery, they pay for your stay here, everything is covered. Which is really...
And we're paying for it.
Yes. And where does that money come? Our tax dollars pay for that. So in that little section, I went to the Department of Health of Washington State, and you can go online and you can find this exact wording. I just copied and pasted it into here. People of any age have the right to independently consent for their abortion care. Parental involvement is not required. And it used to be they had an age set. Now this says people of any age. Your child can't even go get a piercing until they're 18 without your consent. But they can consent for their own health care. They opened it up, and this kind of helped us, even though it's really bad on the other side. But physicians, so MDs, osteopathic physicians, physician's assistants, advanced registered nurse practitioner, or a certified nurse midwife trained in abortion care may provide an abortion. Doesn't say they have to have a facility, they can just do it. State-regulated health insurance plans that cover maternity services must also cover abortion care. Public hospitals that provide maternity benefits, services, or information must also provide substantially equivalent abortion benefits. So if it costs you $8,000 to have a baby, that hospital is then required to service abortion care for that same amount of money. So how many abortions can you get for the amount of money that you can deliver a child? One child can pay for how many abortions? Abortions are legal up to the point of fetal viability as determined by the provider or to protect the life or health of the pregnant individual. They've completely taken women out of this. I don't know, it's kind of comical to go but sad in the same. The pregnant individual. So in our state, men can have babies and become pregnant. no waiting periods are required to have an abortion. So it's very wide open there. And we are the premier vacation destination for abortions. Sad. But God, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has a great plan, not only for each of us, but he also has a great plan for our state. And we're called the Evergreen State, right? And a couple years ago, God showed me that just take that word evergreen apart. What does it mean? If you have ever is always, right? And green is, when you look it up, it always talks about life. If something's green, it's living, right? Green areas are life protected areas, for wildlife habitat and native plants and all those kinds. So why don't we say that it's the always life state? Right? Let's start declaring that, because the Word of God tells us if you declare a thing as though it is, it shall be, right? It tells us that in Job. And so I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to start calling Washington the ever life state or the always life state, because as a Christian, that's what I want to see. As someone that cares for life, that's what I want to see, is that our state is going to turn around and be... There's so many things if you study our state. Our state is named after George Washington, right? George Washington commissioned, have any of you seen the flag, the white flag with the evergreen on it?
Yeah.
That's an appeal to heaven. He commissioned that flag to be made. It's got an evergreen. We're the evergreen state. I mean, there's just so many things that if you just have to see God's plan for Washington. We're strategically placed. We're a corner post, a gateway, you might say. So there's just a lot of hope and positives that I have for our state to be a life champion. So,
Amen.
any question? I mean, I kind of just rattled around, but yes.
Yeah, you covered the business part of it, but can you tell us about the women and the girls a little bit?
Like our clientele is mainly comprised of 20-something. We do have, like this year we've had, our youngest I believe was 14 years old, a couple 16-year-olds. But the bulk of the clients that we serve are 20-something, and that's across the board nationwide. We're not special in that category.
And the services.
The services that we provide, currently we're considered a resource center at this point. So we provide clothing, diapers, furniture items, housing for our homeless clients, and then our Bright Course classes. So there's parenting education, there's relationship education, there's fatherhood classes, there's even some life courses like how to buy a used car and how to rent an apartment and how to write a resume and different things like that. So, you had your hand up?
Do the expectant mothers stay with you, or they just come on a weekly basis?
So if they're homeless, they can live at the maternity home. We can have 3 residents and 3 babies in the home, and they can stay up to 3 months after their baby is delivered. All of our other clients they come in and out of the center, so they visit 2 or 3 times a month, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. It just depends on. Some of those that come in more often are the ones that need a little more emotional, kind of. They'll come in and they'll just hang out for an hour, just shopping, but talking all the time, so, yes.
Can you talk about the little vouchers that they get for taking the babies in for their checkups?
Sure. Our Mommy Money, we call it our Boutique Bucks program. So we have, the Helping Hands is our used things. So if you have used clothing, furniture that's in good repair, we take it in to take home. They get a list of items each month that they can get for each of their children. But then we also have the boutique, which Glenda's referring to. And the boutique is brand new items. And then the clients earn the privilege to shop in the boutique by keeping their doctor's appointments, taking classes, participating in WIC or Early Head Start, coming to church, participating in Bible studies, anything that makes themselves more responsible for the pregnancy or for parenting. And then we give them money to shop in the boutique. It's only good in store. And so then they can go in there and get brand new things for themselves or their children. Yes.
Yeah, the 3 months that you can provide services after the birth, are there state agencies that dovetail in and are adequate to continue on?
As far as housing goes,
Everything.
so we can house the resident for 3 months after. That's our policy. 3 months after birth. And like if she comes in as soon as she finds out she's pregnant, that gives her a whole year. And so she has to be working on finding adequate housing. If she hasn't finished school, she needs to be enrolled in classes and attending school, whether it's her, they call that, the primary up through high school, and then continuing education through college or whatever. And if she has finished school, then she needs to be looking for a job, so employment opportunities. And then we do try to network with like rural resources and area centers that will help them to be able to find housing. Housing is so hard to find right now for our clients. And work source for work training. So we do partner with some of those local agencies. Yes.
Are there many girls that have come in and they were planning to have an abortion and they've changed their mind?
Yes, we have that experience. We haven't been able to do pregnancy testing for about 10 years now because of the not having the doctor and everything, the way Washington State was cracking down on fake pregnancy centers or fake medical clinics. So we haven't done pregnancy testing for about 10 years, but previous to that, yes. And do clients still come in and are talking about those, choices that they're faced with? Yes. We have success and we've had some failure. But the successes are, even if we only saved in my 24 years one baby, and I know there's been way more than that. About 3 years ago, I was standing in line at Walmart, and one of the clients that was early in my directorship was in front of me, and her daughter, which was then about 16, they were having a little quarrel, like moms and daughters do sometimes, And she looked up and she saw me and she said, "You need to straighten up. And you should thank that woman right there because she's the reason you're alive." And our policy at the center is, for patient confidentiality and privacy, I don't just walk up to our clients and say, "Hi," if they wave at me, I will wave back. And if they want to engage, I will engage with them. But this poor girl did not know what her mother was talking about. Because you could see her eyes just got really big when she turned around and she was like, and I just waved at her and said, I didn't really know how to respond either, but so, and then a year ago, that same girl came back to our center and was pregnant. The father of her baby was not on board with this, and her mom was freaking out because her mom had been there, right? And she was like, you gotta talk to her, you gotta talk to her. Like, okay, we'll talk to her. She did choose life. She is parenting a beautiful little baby boy, and so there's two, I guess.
You keep talking about they come in and they have to do this and they have to, is the male part ever part of it?
Yes, we do serve dads.
I mean, are most of them totally alone, or do they have any support, family, or the boy, or?
Most of them have a significant other, whether they should, in my opinion, or not. Probably shouldn't. That's kind of harsh, but we do serve dads. We've served single dads. We serve families. So there are, couples that aren't married that come in together. We try to, get into these classes, and because you gotta be on the same page to raise this child, right? So, but most of the days are women, yes. Any other questions?
95% or?
Probably 95%, yes. Probably like 25% single, and then probably like
Better than
7,
50% better than 50% have a spouse or
a significant other, yes.
You have a castration program?
No. That's where this OB care and pediatric care is going to come in, I think, so that we can start speaking into them. We're also, when we get them, so the new portion of the building that's vacant right now that we can put 3 of our centers in is going to become a medical clinic. And we are working through paperwork right now to be a AAAHC, which in your paper, I can never remember all the letters, mean Accreditation Association for Ambulatory Health Care. And so we will be a certified healthcare center. The Washington State will not be able to call us a fake medical clinic. We will have a certification. Our doctors will have Washington State license. All of our medical staff will carry license and all that good fun stuff. But when we open, we plan to do pregnancy testing with ultrasound verification, and then women's limited health services. And we're also going to do what they call cycle care. So training women on how their bodies work, why they work that way, and just in giving them the ability to make an informed decision then. Because we're probably not going to, at this point, be able to tell people abstinence is the best choice, right? But if they have the knowledge of how their body works and why their body works that way, then they can make an informed decision as to understanding how their body works then, and being able to say, nope, I'm abstaining, and this is the reason why, right? Instead of being pressured into, or whatever. So, yeah, when you're informed, you're a lot stronger person, I think.
Amen.
Yes.
Speaking to the pregnancy testing,
Mm-hmm.
the ultrasound aspect, can you speak into the importance of that, or what it might affect the outcome?
Yes, there is a study, and I don't know the exact numbers, so I'm not going to quote numbers, but once, even a woman that is leaning toward termination, once they see an ultrasound of their child, they make that connection. And it increases the potential to carry that child to term substantially. And so that's one of the reasons that we want to do the ultrasound. We just went to a medical conference last month, and they were saying that this generation of teens and 20s understand that pregnancy that there's a life in there, right? They've all seen the ultrasounds. Probably most of their Siblings have been posted on the refrigerator before they ever got to meet them personally. So they understand, they have that understanding, but our society has dissociated it so greatly that there's no feeling into that, you know. And so making that connection reconnects that portion of the emotions to say, oh wow, there is something that's really alive, right? So that's what we're hoping for.
Amen.
All right.
Do you have a favorite client story that kind of keeps you going?
Well, probably the one I told you. Any of my clients, when they come in, when I first started, I'm going to tell on myself, so don't look at me like I'm a bad person, okay? I am the only child of 3 children in my family. I was born 14 years after my siblings, so I kind of grew up like an only child, right? I didn't have the sibling fighting. I didn't experience any of that fun stuff that kind of toughens us up, right? And so my experience in the world up to the time that I became the director was a lot of, women can be mean, really mean. Come on, women can really be mean. And so I didn't really care for women. I don't have a best friend. Well, I do now, but I didn't hang out with the girls. I like to ride horses and we work cows and that's good. Didn't have any use for gals. They just backbite and gossip and I just, that was my feeling. So the first day that I had to go to the center after I was hired, I sat there in front of it waiting for the person to come unlock the door and I said, Lord, you have to give me a love for women. If this is where you want me, you have got to give me a love for women. Because, yeah. And he did. And then the second thing I said was, God, you have to help me to remember everybody's name that comes in. And for the first 15 years before they made me start doing so much stupid paperwork, I could remember all my clients' names and I could, because there's something, that scientific fact that when somebody says your name, there's something that lights up in your head and the good endorphin feelings come, because you're known, you're noticed, and it helps your mentality greatly when somebody can say, hi Mary, how are you today? And so that was something that I really wanted to do, and God helped me to do that, because if I meet you, guarantee if I don't say, okay, Mary's name is the same as Mary, my volunteer that's been with me for 15 years. If I don't associate your name with somebody, I'll forget it as soon as I walk away from you, guaranteed. But God helped me to be able to remember their names. So when they walked through the door, I could say, hi Jennifer, how are you today? It's so good to see you, And even if they were down or, things haven't been going good, at least at that point they were recognized and known. Mm-hmm. And so I probably don't know half of the clients that are in there now. I think the number I saw the other day, did any of you get the newsletter? Yeah. I think it was 131 or something that we've served so far this year. And I probably only know half of them. And that makes my heart hurt. Because I'm not able to, when they're back there and I walk out of my office and they're back there shopping, I can't say their name to them. But my job is fun. I don't know. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of heartache with it. But to be able to see these little people and just know that God loves them, them and their mommies and their daddies. It just makes it worth it. We do need, if you're looking for something to do, we do need volunteers. And once we're probably a year out, I'm going to say, roughly, of getting the new building ready to move into. we're gonna be hiring staff, we're gonna need volunteers there. We're hoping if any of you can swing a hammer or saw a board, we're hoping to do a lot of our reconstruction or remodel, instead of hiring a full contracting crew, to have some volunteer time in that as well. So, yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Just keep thinking about the young men. Will there be a place for them? They can come there if they need
They can always come
something
there if they
in.
need.
Yes, we will keep the resource center open. And I have 2 nurse managers right now because we're getting all that fun paperwork going. And we've received our first floor plan. So we sat down with the medical team and kind of tweaked it to make sure that it had good flow and what needs to go here and there. And now that has been sent to our consultant for our medical accreditation. And so my nurse managers have been talking about treating men. But, what are the pros and cons of that? And how can we do that? And do we need to have a clinic day that's just for guys? If you're treating a mom or a young woman for an STD, she's only half of that equation, right? So we have to figure out something to be able to help the whole equation. And whether that's being one day open just for men to come in, that could be a possibility. But as far as parenting and that kind of stuff, they're always welcome to come to the resource center. Yeah. Some say it's too girly for them because there's babies and flowers and lots of. Fortunately, my favorite color is green, so there's a lot of green in there, so they don't get overpowered with pink. But they still are kind of, when they walk in, they're like, oh, what do we do here? So, okay, yes, Mary.
So what kind of volunteers do you need? What do your volunteers do?
Right now, I need an in-center volunteer on Thursdays. So somebody to come in, and we're open 6 hours on Thursdays, but to handle laundry, greet clients, well, not greet clients, but help clients go through the helping hands, or go with them into the boutique when they go in. Just a hands-on kind of person that's in center. And the hours on Thursdays are 11 to 5. We ask for just 4 hours during that time span, but we are open 6 hours that day. So we do need one in center person. I would really like to have a person that knew how to do a newsletter, because I really fall back on getting my newsletters out there all the time. We really need somebody to come in and coordinate events for me, to keep me on task about, okay, we're 6 months out from the dessert or the winter fundraiser, so now we need to start approaching businesses for donations, and this month we need to do this and this, to help me kind of plan a calendar so I can see it, because if I don't see it, it's not here. I'm over here in the paperwork. So somebody that would be interested in doing something like that. I didn't bring that list with me. One of my board members is like, you need this and this and this and this, and okay, I'll try. So those 2 are at the top of my memory right now. So they must be the most important. We will be looking for a contractor or somebody that will be able to put volunteers together to come in and do walls and sheetrock, but when those, we're a ways out from that right now, but so there's always opportunities.
We circle up. Can we circle up?
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.